Tim Albright with AVNation with an AVNation special, taking a look at AV in Africa. A couple things here before we get started. I'll bring in my fantastic guest. The African continent is you're looking at 1.2 billion people. So the U.S., by contrast, we have 333 million. Nigeria has 223 million. Ethiopia has 126 million. Egypt has over 100 million. Congo has DR Congo has over 100 million. Several countries here in the continent make up that over 1 billion population. By contrast, India has 1 billion people. China has 1 billion people. But you're looking at a pretty substantial piece of the world that not a lot of folks in the U.S. pay attention to. GDP, you're looking at about $3 trillion, again, continent-wide. Depending on where you're looking at, South Africa, you're looking at 400 billion, Egypt, 340 billion, Algeria, 260 billion. So again, a pretty significant part of the world that, again, from a U.S. standpoint, we don't have a whole lot of vision to. So, as luck would have it, I've made a new friend. His name is Anton Van Vyk from Van Vyk Consulting in South Africa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Mitchell will put a link to the article that Anton wrote for us a couple of weeks ago, but I thought that it was also be important just to have a conversation. So Anton, from your perspective, again, Anton is in South Africa. He does work all over the continent. So we're not just going to talk about one country here. But to give folks a perspective of you and kind of your expertise, you've been doing in AV over 20 years. Talk for a second about kind of your journey and how you went from live events, which is what we would call that here in the States, all the way through where you're now consulting.
Yeah, so my journey started actually when I was a teenager, always into audio, sound. My dad, while he was doing his woodworking and cabinet making in his garage in the back, listened to vinyls, anything from the Rolling Stones, Beatles to Beethoven. So for me, my introduction to audio was at a young age. And then obviously the natural progression, when you go to high school, I started DJing. From DJing after school, I joined a events company. And with that, I toured quite a couple of local bands and famous bands in South Africa. And I did that from 97 until around about 2000. And I thought to myself, you know what, I love audio. Audio is my blood, my veins. But the money paid and the hours worked didn't match up. So I decided there's something better out there. And I got approached by a audiovisual integration company, one of the largest then, 2000 in Johannesburg, South Africa. And they pulled me in because I had the audio knowledge, they had the video and the control knowledge, but they lacked the audio knowledge. And with that nice pairing, I started working for them. They taught me a lot of video, they taught me a lot of coding and programming. AMX was still in DOS those years for those guys that's programming AMX. And started out then. The company was acquired later on by Dimension Data, now NTT. That lasted a couple of months. The reason for that is family-owned business versus corporate-owned business. It didn't work out quite well, so a company was born called Omega Digital. 3 directors started it. There was a salesperson. I was technical. That was in October 2002. And there I started with that company called Omega Digital. They're still one of the largest AV integration companies in South Africa at the moment. I was with them for 10 years, heading up the technical. But one thing that we did quite a lot in that business was training technical staff, training salespeople. Because when a salesperson goes out, you need to speak the technical jargon. You need to know how the product works, not just be somebody that sells a product, but understands how the product works. On the technical level, from an installation point of view, the guys need to know how to install it. So like I wrote in my article, when we started out early 2000s, the brain trust was manuals. You got a piece of hardware, you went through the manual, and if it's not in the manual, you sat there for days and figured it out until you got it working. And when you got it working, you're excited, you're the champion, you're the hero, you go and share the news with the fellow technicians out there, And that's how the Brain Trust was started and growing and maintained. And obviously, with Amiga Digital, we needed to make sure that that brain trust carried on and grew new technicians, new young blood coming into the industry. And I was with Amiga Digital for 10 years. Like I said, October 2002. And then end of 2012, October, I joined one of the leading distribution companies in the country, called Walden Moore. They were the Harman distributors, the Shure distributors in the country, because my passion for audio just called me back. I mean, I've been in the AV game for a couple of years, but the passion for audio was strong in my blood. So I joined them, started out as technical manager within that company, and realized once again, training. So I got involved at the training. We developed some of the video products within with the actual business side of the Walden Moore. And from there onwards, the business was acquired now recently in 2002 by a company called Planet World Pro. They took over the business. And then I thought, you know what, it's time for me after 25 years in the industry with all my knowledge to be something in the industry or someone in the industry giving back in the industry. Because sitting at a distributor, you can only work with your local peers or your clients that you deal with. You can't really go to the opposition and say, hey, let me train your people up or help you train the people up or let me help you share the knowledge within that industry. And in October 2022, 10 years later, I started a company called Audiovisual Works. And that business was purely focused on the import and distribution of audiovisual products for the broadcast market. Had a few brands in there, well-known brands. And even though I had the product and the product was moving and I did well with the product, 80% of my time I spent consulting. A lot of people phoned me because they knew I had the knowledge. They understood that I was versed in audio, video control, acoustics, broadcasting, cinemas, Atmos, recording studios. So a lot of people phone me up and say, can I consult? Can I help with this? And in January, February of 23, my company was acquired by ProSound, which is one of the leading distributors in this industry right now. They doing Electro Voice and Mayer and all those sort of brands. And I took a sabbatical for a month, the month of February, because I haven't taken leave since 2015. So I need to just shut down, restart. And ultimately in March 2023, I started Van Wyk Consulting with a pure focus on being a totally independent consultant, not having ties to any brand, any product, but purely giving back into the industry and training people, but with the help of advancing clients out there that's in need of technical skills. Because I mean, I dealt with a client in the last couple of weeks where they were sold a lemon, unfortunately, where the technical people went in and they just sold him a bunch of products that's still not working. And I went in there to sort it out. So yes, that is my history in a nutshell.
So talk for a second about again, I want to emphasize the fact that you do work not just in South Africa, but all over the continent. If you had to kind of condense down one or two of the biggest issues facing the AV industry on the continent of Africa, what would that be?
The biggest thing that I helped a client out in Ethiopia in the end of last year, and the skill level in Africa is the biggest problem. Even though we've got internet, we've got YouTube, and all the different manufacturers got brilliant training out there, the fundamental skill sets, the basic knowledge of what is audio, how does audio work, what is video, how does video work, how does the two fit together, how do you make it work together? That fundamental skill level is not available in Africa. And yes, you can Google something, but if you Google how to make an atomic bomb, you will find the ingredients, how to make the bomb. You'll put it together. You might blow yourself up in the process, but you'll be able to do it because the knowledge is there. Do you understand what you're doing while you're building the bomb? No, you're just building the bomb. And that is the biggest thing that I see in Africa right now is the skill to actually do a job properly, and then the fact after it in maintaining it, because you can install it, but maintaining a product or maintaining an installation after the fact is the hardest part. Because a lot of European countries or countries from or installation integration companies from Dubai might swing into Africa, do a quick sale, do a quick installation, and go back to Dubai or Europe and leave the client high and dry in Africa without any knowledge on how to maintain the system.
So how do we fix that, right? And again, I fully admit my brain, is very U.S. centric, and as such, we have access to VIXA, we have access to CEDIA, NSCA, a number of other organizations with training, right? Now, anymore, 90% of that training is online, so you could make the argument that, oh, sure, if you're in Nairobi, sure, you can get access to a VIXA, but what is the solution from Anton's point of view perspective? How do we get the AV professionals in these various countries? How do we get them trained up on the proper skill set?
That's a very good question. I asked that question myself a few times.
Yeah.
My honest opinion on this, and it's just Anton, the gospel according to Anton right now,
Yeah.
is that yes, you can have a lot of book knowledge, and you can see it on LinkedIn every day. Another certificate bagged, and you can see the certificates raked up on LinkedIn and on Facebook and social media. The question is, do you have the practical experience? And that is the key differentiating factor for me, is having the practical knowledge of that. Me sitting here, I only have matric high school diploma behind my name. I didn't go and study mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, sound engineering, acoustical, none of that. Everything I know of 25 years was practical experience, where people taught me practically, Anton, this is how you solder a VGA. And for me, funny, my teacher at that point said to me, Anton, this is how to do a VGA. And he showed me, okay, now you do it. And I remember sitting at a job site, and they were busy installing, pulling cables, terminating cables, installing mounting projectors. And I was sitting there practicing my VGA connections. When I was done, proud, look at my VGA connector. He would cut it off, do it again. For a week, non-stop, I just made VGA connectors until I got to a point where I could do a VGA connector while talking to you, making a VGA connector without fault perfectly every single time.
Yeah.
Now, can I watch a YouTube video? Yes, I can. Does it mean I can actually then terminate a VGA connector? No. It takes practice to get to that point. And I think this is the biggest thing that's lacking currently in the African market, but also it's creeping in slowly in the local South African market as well, where the practical experience is lacking in our industry, where you non-stop practice until you get it right. And yes, sometimes it takes time out of your own personal life, out of office time, to go and learn a new skill. But the practical and the theoretical doesn't match or correspond. And I think this is the caveat between, yes, I can have 10 million certificates and CTS, CTSD behind my name. Do I have the practical experience of how to implement what I've learned?
So from your perspective, and I'm going to give me a second here because I'm going to do a little bit roundabout, is you've got countries, again, which are several $100 billion worth of GDP. There is infrastructure going in, there are buildings going up, there is need for conferencing, there is need for education facilities. If you're looking at this, as you're looking at this, and you're seeing this kind of shortfall of practical knowledge, do you think it's better for us to, as an industry, to focus on the integrators and the support staff that are surrounding these new installs, or is it better to focus on the IT and the facilities managers that are on site and that are taking possession of these projects that are then needing to support them?
So in the African market, if you look at the African market, I'm going to call a spade a spade. The more cost-effective Chinese product is entering into the African market. And when they enter into the African market, it's not because the product is better or better suited for the application. It's more from a political tie or political negotiation point of view, saying that I want to strengthen my ties with a certain country. Now we'll give you product for free because of this, and then you'll receive that because of that. And it's a barter system. And I've seen many countries, and I've been to an airport in West Africa recently, a well-known Chinese brand of fire noise evacuation public address system installed into the airport. And I thought, wow, brilliant installations, installed decently, cables are labeled. And when the announcements came through, it was distorting. It wasn't commissioned properly. And I thought to myself, is typical. This is what happens, is they got the product for free, they got the installation for free, but now after the fact, there's no commissioning. So even though, back to your point now, is on the training point of view, is if you train somebody, who do you actually train? Because if they get a product from a country as a gift and or a very discounted product, who do you train? How do you get in there to train the person? How do you teach the person to maintain the system? Because if, say, for instance, you take a world-class brand, this brand will have a distributor in an area or a region or a country. They will not sell to the integrator if the integrator is not certified in their product. And that's how the training chain normally runs. It runs from the manufacturer to the distributor to the integrator, and the integrator back to the client. Now, if you have a very good Chinese product and it just gets given to the client, how do you reach that end user for training purposes? And if they're not buying your product, how do you spend time and money to train that person, and what's your return on that investment? So that's a catch-22 is, yes, you have to do training, but if you do training, what's your return on investment, because your product doesn't get sold into that area?
I'm going to ask a very dangerous question because I don't know the answer, and I'm trying not to cause an international incident. Can at least in that instance, right, where and I'll just pick on the Chinese manufacturer. The Chinese manufacturer is giving that product to the client. Could somebody, whether that is the client or the consultant or somebody, say, "Hey, great, awesome, thanks so much for the product. By the way, to accept this, to make this worth everybody's time and effort, you, Mr. and Mrs. Chinese manufacturer, you need to train us a bit." Right? Is there any appetite there on the Chinese manufacturing part, or they're just looking to kind of get into the country some more and establish a deeper relationship, and they're kind of done once they say, here's this product, now go figure it out?
Good question. And I think that's something we need to unpack, because I don't have the answer, to be honest with you. But there's something we need to unpack and look at, because even as a consultant, you get bypassed totally in Africa.
Yeah.
Because they've got their own in-house engineers, they've got their own in-house install teams. So if a Chinese manufacturer comes in, they come with the entire team, they finish and they go off again. And I think this is something that, and this is part of my passion, is to educate the people out there, to train the people out there. I mean, I had a phone call from somebody I trained 15 years ago, out of the blue, saying, "Thank you. You trained me 15 years ago, and because your training helped me through my years, I can be now a manager in this company looking after AV." And that to me was a confirmation that all those years of training was not in vain. And that just reignited my whole passion for training. 25 years of knowledge can be shared. The question is, who's willing to receive it? Because everyone is like, "No, I'll do it online. I've got time." But nobody's willing to spare the time to actually do it.
And Tan, as we wrap up here, not just for us that are U.S. based, but you look at ISE. ISE is my favorite show, right? Integrated Systems Europe. It is the biggest AV show in the world. I know a handful of folks from Africa. I've got a buddy from Uganda that goes. I know you go to ISE. So not just U.S., but outside of let's just say Africa itself, whether it's the European market, it's the Asia Pac market, or the U.S. market. What is one thing that you want folks to understand about the African AV market?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, Tim. Here's the thing. I think the African market and the law, I've been going to ISE for the past 12, 15 years of my life. I've missed probably 2 of those 15 years I've gone to ISE. The African market, or the people representing the African market, is increasing every single year. Yeah. They're hungry. They're hungry to get out there. They're hungry to understand what's out there, what's the latest technology. And I think if there is partnerships with, let's pick a country, Kenya, and say, right, Kenya, part of the trade and industry of Kenya is a program of educating X amount of people on audiovisual. I think that is something that we can definitely look at on how, from that point of view, because the hunger is there. Is how do you meet the hunger? How do you actually get to the right people to meet that hunger? So yes, it's a rhetorical question. It's an open-ended question. I don't think we're going to have the answer for that right now. But my personal view is we need to find a way to involve those African countries, reach out to them, even if it's a freebie or a thing like once a year. If you look at Dubai at the moment, they've got the GITEX show in Morocco, yep. Which is similar to ISE at the moment. And it's quite interesting. A lot of African people go to GITEX. But if, like me, I wanted to go to GITEX, and trying to get into GITEX is quite difficult, because if you don't have the right connections via Dubai, you don't get into the GITEX show that easily. And this is the thing, is like Dubai took initiative with GITEX in Morocco. I think there could be initiative of bringing an ISE with training to the African continent, but not just a 3-4 day event. Because even if, for me, it's 10 hours from Johannesburg to Amsterdam to get there, then you have a 3-day show and there's no time to walk the floor and do the training and to have the special events. One person cannot do everything at the same time. So the question is that if you do bring an event like that to Africa, how do you make it sustainable, or how do you make it not sustainable? How do you make it for people to access it more easily, but also at the same time have the training, see the product, attend seminars at the same time? We had something in Johannesburg called MediaTek. MediaTek was every second year, and ultimately everyone that was in MediaTek went to ISE. But even the guys from Africa came down to MediaTek, they also went to ISE. So, and the same people as going to GITEX. It's the same show. It just shows you the hunger. There's hunger for that involvement, for people to see the latest technologies, but also get educated at the same time. And I think that is a good launching pad, is how do you reach the masses? Not necessarily an ISE, but something similar where you have training, but not just manufacturer training, basic training. The basics of audio, the basics of video, the basics of control, basics of broadcast, stuff like that. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
That'll be a good place to stop it. Anton Van Veck, thank you so much, sir. How do people connect with you or Van Veck Consulting?
Yeah, it's easy. My website is vanwyk.consulting. It's VANWYK.consulting. That's the website. Or my email is anton@vanwyk.consulting. And yeah, I'm there on social media, LinkedIn, website. Yeah, easy to reach.
We'll have Mitchell put a link to both LinkedIn and your website. So thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. For AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find programs like this and a host of others. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.